Great. So hopefully you can find some information that is useful to you throughout this presentation. Samantha and I have also discussed, and we are going to be sharing our work as Creative Commons. So if there's anything that you want to adapt or build upon for your own purposes after this presentation, you're welcome to use our lessons as templates. So hopefully we can offer you not only ideas, but also actual objects that you can then use and tweak for your own institutions. All right. I am going to go ahead and share my screen here. This presentation is about creating accessible online learning objects with H5P. And all right, apologies for that little technical difficulty there. So I'm going to be talking about creating accessible online learning objects with H5P. And one of the things that you need to know to understand what I'm going to talk about is the way we used to do things and what we were looking for when we started this program. CCCC has had an embedded librarian program for a while now, and we were finding that the way that we had been embedding our content was not working as well for our users as we would want to. We traditionally embed in Blackboard, that's our LMS, and the way we used to do it was we would create these long form kind of pieced together learning modules that were YouTube videos from other institutions, PDFs that we'd created that were finding aids, different learning objects that we may have encountered at some other school so that we could deliver what we needed to our students. Now, CCCC's strategic plan requires that we provide equitable service to both our online and our seated students. One of the things that we really focus on in our seated program is interactivity in learning and the ability to make mistakes as you go. So we wanted to find a way that we could do the same thing in our online program and make sure that we were offering that truly equitable services across our populations. So the problem with the old way we used to do it was piecemeal. There was no branding, there was no consistency in what was presented from course to course. The lessons were frankly pretty unengaging. No one really wants to sit there and watch a peer review video and then go through a worksheet that they would have to print out to do. It was also time consuming. A lot of the time the pieces that we would use would be taken down or they would be changed or they would become outdated, and we had no control over that because we were utilizing resources from other schools rather than creating our own in-house. So we went looking for a solution. We needed this solution to be accessible. Our school takes accessibility very seriously. We need to be compliant with WCAG 2.0 AA standards for electronic accessibility. For those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's similar to the Section 508 federal accessibility requirement, but it's actually more robust, and it means that your program needs to work with things like screen readers, with keyboard navigation. You need to allow your users to resize the content to their liking so that you basically are adapting to anyone's lack of mobility or different ability. Our content also needed to be embeddable. This was a big one for us. We didn't want students to have to click a link to be taken out of their content management or their learning management system to go to another website. We wanted the activities to live within the Blackboard shell. This was really important to us. We also didn't want to ask our students to create another username. Our students are already juggling several usernames for different proprietary programs, things like SAMS and Cengage programs, their Blackboard login. We didn't want to add to that cognitive burden by asking them to require another one for each class that we made. So we wanted our tool that we use to create our content not to require that from them. We also wanted it to be interactive, and this goes back to that equitable piece I talked about before, where we are offering really interactive, engaging content to our online users. So what we found was this program called H5P. It's a really cool program. It is easy to use, very simple to use. It is free. Community colleges are really excited about that. It's also open source, which means that it is continually being made better and being updated as it goes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we made, but if anyone has questions about H5P, we are going to explore the tool a little bit at the end of this, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you can do with it. So you may want to hold H5P related questions until that point. And in the chat, Kelly has shared the link It's h5p.org that you can take to go directly there. Okay, so what we made, we wanted to cover, again, the basics of what we would do in a one-shot instruction session or in a seated instruction. So we made a module about topic selection. We made a module about finding sources, how to use the library's resources to locate the kind of sources that your instructor wanted. We made a module about ethical use of information. This covered plagiarism, as well as covering citation styles, which was really big for our instructors. They kept telling us our students are really struggling with citations, so we wanted to give them a tool that will allow them to walk their students through that process. These were really well received, and we started using them in our English 111s in particular. As we got more well-known with the instructors that we were working with, we started to expand our program. We realized there was a need for more than just these 3 basic modules, so we made some more advanced ones. For our English 112s, we made modules about searching in each discipline, searching in science, searching in the humanities, searching in social science, as well as giving overviews of specific databases within those disciplines and how to navigate through them. For those people that have not used JSTOR before, it's not necessarily the most intuitive program, so we wanted to give our students a leg up. Instead of just throwing them into an interface and saying, find your peer-reviewed sources. So it allows us to talk to them without actually being physically there with them. We also have created specialty modules upon request for some of our more vocational programs. So currently our health information programs all have a module in their Blackboard shell about using consumer health information, finding and using consumer health information. Because they're going to be giving information about health, we wanted to make sure that they had a reputable source and knew how to recognize good information about consumer health. In terms of assessment, H5P is not currently integrated with Blackboard, and what I mean when I say integrated is it doesn't talk to the gradebook. So I can create a module with interactive quizzes, but those quiz answers, those quiz scores are not going to be recorded in the Blackboard gradebook. This is both good and bad. It's great because it does allow us to create that low-stakes learning environment where students don't feel like they're being judged on every click that they do. They can retry activities, they can make mistakes, go back and review content without having to feel like they might be penalized in terms of a grade. It's also not great because it means we have to create an extra step. We have to create comprehension quizzes that we then add into the Blackboard shell that feel very redundant. This is just the information that they covered in the module, in the tutorial. So now we're seeing that they will, sorry, I got distracted by the chat, that those quizzes can feel repetitive and then their investment in the quiz answers might be lowered. In terms of other LMSs, which is people are talking about in the chat, it does work with Moodle. And I have a screen up if you are on H5P. Make this smaller. H5P has amazing documentation, and they are coming out apparently soon with something called Software as a Service that is going to allow LTI integration with a variety of LMSs. But it's likely to be a paid option. So I'm happy with what we have right now. Yeah, LTI means it'll work at Blackboard on Campus. Thank you, Samantha. So we have this plus and minus situation with assessment. We can't do it in the tutorials themselves, but we do have an assessment option by just creating a short 2 or 3 question quiz that covers the main topics. So in terms of testing the modules, I'm going to make this bigger for myself again. We found good results. The first term that we did these, we designed an A/B test to look at overall performance on a standard set of assessment quizzes that tested students in 2 different English 111 classes. One course got the flat modules that I talked about at the beginning, the threaded together YouTube PDF style, and the other course got the H5P modules, which we have been referring to as dynamic versus flat modules. You can see that there was a significant increase on the assessment quizzes. The students that had the flat modules scored 72.47 on average across all 4 quizzes, while students in the H5P class scored 80% average on all 4 quizzes. That's the difference between a C- and a B-, which I know makes a lot of a difference to our students. We additionally found that students in the version with the H5P modules also had higher scores on their final research assignments. And that was a difference of 80.5% in the H5P class to 73.96% in the flat module class. But these two courses were taught by two separate instructors, so we can't make that a clear correlation quite as much as we can with the direct assessments. Some of the things that we saw in terms of response, students found these great. This was in response to a student who had been asked to read and evaluate a scholarly article. They were asked to try to do it first and then do the H5P module on how to read a scholarly article, and then this was their response afterwards. Once I did the library activities, I was able to figure out how to read the text. Breaking each section down and answering the questions suggested by the exercises was most helpful. We love to see feedback like that from our students. Instructors have also been really pleased with the way that their students are impacted by these modules. This is one of the psychology instructors that I work with. And she said that those that do well on the library lessons tend to perform better on their writing assignments. She's heard from numerous students that this has helped them, especially the piece on how to evaluate sources and the APA material. Because citations can be so formulaic, they are a great option of what you can use H5P for. And I created a module to show you some of the interactivity that you can do that'll touch upon this. So finally, let's look at how you make these. Is everyone on h5p.org that wants to be on h5p.org right now? Cool. So one of the things before I go too deep into the tool is I want to show you this content type accessibility. If accessibility is as important to your institution as it is to CCCC, and I really hope it is, this is a really important thing that we can do for our patrons, H5P makes it very easy to see which content types will work for WCAG 2.0 AA criteria. So you can make all of these different types except find the hotspot or find multiple hotspots, known problems with flashcards. This makes it so simple. I'm a big fan of accessibility. I get on a soapbox a lot here at work, and I know that my boss is listening, so Tara, thank you so much for supporting me in all of my tilting at windmills here. But we really do care about accessibility, and this has made it so easy to make sure that the content we're creating has that accessibility built in. So this is your home screen on H5P. To create an account, you'll just go to where it says My Account. I need to move this little bar. This is our screen. This shows you the contents that we've created. And I am going to share this link in chat so that everyone can go here and, oops, that just went to my boss. So that everyone can see our content. And again, you are welcome to use any of this as a template. Some of it is better than others. We have created all of this over the course of about a year. We're learning as we go. So pick what you can use. But what I will show you is this test one. So I created this to show you a little bit about some of the interactivity that you can do. So if you guys want to go to that link and click on test, you can also participate in this. These are drawn from a variety of modules, so this is not going to make any sense. But you can do a drag and drop, check the work. Those were all wrong. I'm a terrible librarian. Let's fix that. So if I was a student, I would not need to get a wrong answer on this. I would just be shown, no, that's not right, and then I could try again. You can also do these single choice that go across multiples. This is from our CRAP test. So the C stands for currency. Yes, the R stands for relevance. Yes. It's almost like a gamification of learning in a way that makes it really engaging for students to make sure that they're working with what we want them to in terms of that active learning. We also have created modules that go outside of the library. We've been working with some of our different committees to create academic integrity modules that will replace the page-long text about plagiarism that students that are online have to read. So we're trying to make even the things that are traditionally pretty dry orientation materials more engaging with these tools. And this is an example of a select all that apply, so a multiple choice. And this is a true false. You can also set it up to give feedback upon a right or wrong answer to show the correct solution and retry. One of the other tools that we have at our disposal is a drag and drop. These can be really useful when you're trying to teach students the difference between two different types of things. This comes from one of our humanities modules where we're talking about what humanities research sometimes entails and trying to teach them the difference between a discourse analysis and a close reading. So this, they can drag and drop their answers into the correct box, and they will be told whether or not those were correct, how many points they got. This is the one that I really like. It's a mark the terms. Oh, Jennifer, it is so easy. It is so easy. I will show you how to edit. Let's just edit this, and I'll show you exactly how. So this is how you actually get in once you've created the module. This is the course presentation type of module that we usually use. And you click on edit. It pulls up a what you see is what you get editor. And this is my drag and drop. Task description. These are the terms that I want them to be dragging and dropping. I can add a score feedback range if I want. We don't currently use that. Hit done, and then I have this. So what I was told by someone who's much more technically savvy than I am is that this is the type of thing that you would be creating if you knew how to use jQuery, but I don't know how to use jQuery. And frankly, I don't have the time to learn right now. So this gives me a nice shortcut to creating really great interactivity without necessarily having that technical ability. Since we're in the editing screen, you can see all the things you can add. This is text, this is a link, this is an image. In terms of interfacing with all browsers, I found that the editing portion works best in Mozilla, but it does work in all browsers. There's a little bug that I've encountered using Google Chrome that apparently they can't replicate on the help end of H5P, and no one else has had it, so I'm going to say that's probably just my computer. But the interactivity is very easy. You just basically put in your right answers. Yes, thank you. It is responsive, so it is going to resize to whatever device you're on, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a laptop, works on mobile devices, works with screen readers, works with keyboard navigation, which is big for me in terms of interactivity. So yeah, it is a really well-constructed device, and I think because it's open source, it keeps getting better. Every couple weeks or so, we see H5P roll out some additional upgrades, or people will say, oh, I just wrote this, so now it works with enter tool name here. People are working on this constantly, and they're doing a really great job creating useful things. All right, let me get back to my view screen so I can show you a little bit more of the interactivity. Students navigate by either the arrow keys or these arrows at the bottom, or by just clicking the slide they want to go to. So here we're asking them to select terms that would narrow a search to results that might discuss Madame Bovary from a feminist perspective. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these here. Let's see. So it's a good way for them to check their work, to check their understanding as they go. This is, again, another one of those drag and drops. This was from our topic selection. So we've wanted them to sort these topics into things that were too broad, things that were too narrow, or things that already had a known conclusion, things that they wouldn't necessarily need to do research on because we already know that poison has a negative effect on human health. Uses of the internet, probably too broad. Pretty good understanding of what the layout of the solar system is. History of the United States is too broad. And then these. It is really hard to come up with a too narrow topic. If anyone has ideas, this was Samantha and my, after like half an hour of brainstorming, these were the 2 that we came up with. So then they can check that, they can see whether or not they categorized things properly. And this is an example of how it works for citations. I love using H5P. There are not timers for the activities, but let's see if we can set one. Because I'm just learning too. I mean, I've been working with this for probably the last year, so I'm very interested to see if there is a timer. Overall feedback. There's a timeout for both right and wrong answers that I think you could use. I'd recommend playing around with it. It's not something that I've used before, but it looks like it could be interesting. What would you use a timer for? Just out of curiosity. Well, I'll keep going. Esther, if you figure out what you would have wanted to use that timer for, let me know, and I'll think if we can't come up with a way to do that. So for citations, it is so good for citations because they are so formulaic. This is looks like an APA. Because we can ask students to place the pieces of the citations in the actual spots that they go in. So the author is going to go here, the publication date. And this little show comments, you can add a comment that will help a student so they can see the correct citation and go back and add theirs. Oh, scavenger hunt assignments. I like that. That's really cool. So yeah, this is H5P. It is wildly useful for many things. I pulled up one of our modules just to show you what it looks like. So this is our MLA module. Typically, we don't just have a mass of interactivities. No, it does not capture data well. That is one of the biggest downsides of H5P. It is, because it's not linked to an account, because it's not linked to any tool that is tracking an individual user, it does not capture that data well. And Kimberly, I am definitely going to steal that too narrow topic. So one of the things I'm going to talk about shortly is best practices, and I'll talk about some of them while we're doing this. Keep your modules or your tutorials short. We try to keep them under 15 slides because we feel like that is about the energy and attention span that a typical student will have to complete something like this before they start losing interest. Also, use clip art, use color, use pictures, make it as engaging as possible so that students do feel that almost gamified vibe to it. We ask them to identify what types of sources you need to cite. We give examples of what those types are. We talk about plagiarism. We do these quick checks as we go so that students don't get to the end of the activity and realize they didn't understand anything that was in it. Basically, the quick checks are just read this paragraph and then answer these questions that show that you understood what you just read. Different types of plagiarism, another quick check. It also supports hyperlinks. Yeah, no, it can be embedded in LibGuides. This embed button down here will give you both the iframe embed and the script that makes it responsive. And you just copy paste them. I know, I'm really excited about it too, Trish. Okay, MLA, et cetera, 9 core elements. One of the things we use a lot are little dots, and I think, yeah, here we go. So this allows us to put a lot of text on a slide without necessarily having a lot of text on a slide. So clicking on these will pull up a definition of what that element was, and then it closes it. You can give your examples, but it pieces it out so students aren't dealing with just a mass of text at once. They're able to kind of engage with these as they go. And then they're asked, put them in order, type them in. If they want to go back and check, they can do that between slides. So a really nice way to encourage that engagement with learning. And at the end of each tutorial, it will show students how they did. So it'll show them what they got on each activity. Unfortunately, we don't get this tracking data. That's just one of the downsides. All right, I'm gonna go back to my slides here. So some of the best practices that I was talking about. Make the modules short. This one's a big one. Samantha and I initially started using this, and I created my own account and she created her own account. And we found that I would say, I want to use your English 111. How do I do that? And how I needed to do that was coming into the H5P, clicking on this download link, downloading the file, saving it. And then when I created new content, I had to re-upload that file. So we created a shared account. So now all I have to do is hit clone content, and I have a copy of the content that I can then edit. So it's much better if you're going to be working as a collective, if you guys are as collaborative as my library is, to just have a shared account that you all utilize across all of your departments so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel constantly. Implement those quick checks to aid self-assessment again. Oh, yeah, no, for ours, you'll have to download and upload them because these are live. The ones that I'm showing you are actually live in all our courses right now, and we can't take the chance that someone will change something or delete something and not realize that they're in our live one. So for ours, yes, please just download them and then re-upload them to your own account. That's a great question. Thank you. And speaking of them being live in our courses, this was a big one for us too in terms of time saving. We used to create those learning modules that were flat in every single course, and that was time consuming. For the H5P, we can embed an H5P into 6 different courses, realize that a change needs to be made, and make a change to that master H5P in our account, and it will change across all of those 6 courses. So we only need to have one change in order to have all of our things updated. This was a big one. Samantha is an amazing proofreader. I am an amazing misspeller. So we work really well together in that I really need to have someone to proof my work. Are users able? I don't think they can download. I'm not even sure that copy paste would work, Esther, but I'm willing to give it a try. Let me pull that one up. Yeah, I'm not sure how the copy paste will work with the interactivity. Give it a shot, see what happens. One of the nice things about H5P is it's free. We're not paying for it, so there's no need to be worried about breaking it and feeling like your vendor is going to yell at you, because they have a very robust community of people that work on H5P that will answer your questions. So for instance, when I ran into that bug in Google Chrome, I posted it, and within a day I had 4 or 5 people being like, I'm trying to edit yours right now, it's not doing the same thing for me, have you checked this setting, have you cleared your cookies? And they weren't people that worked for H5P, they were just other users. They were just other users who wanted to make sure that other people had a great experience with the product as well. Review these regularly for updates. Because they aren't created each time you put them into a course, it's easy for them to get outdated. So I suggest implementing some sort of cyclical assessment for yourself to make sure that your database names haven't changed, that email addresses are still up to date, that any signage or logos that you have are still up to date. The same way that you review LibGuides, you need to review these. And then, yes, use color and clip art, Pixabay, Pexels, Friendly Stock. These are some of my favorites for attribution-free clip art. But use those to punch up your slides. Make sure that they are things that you think your students would want to use, and have fun with it. Okay, so took questions throughout, but if anyone has any big questions now, please feel free.